they see the beans, they hear a noise, done. It's in a cup. There's so much more to that.
Talk to me.
Talk to me, Jasper. Are we good? So
when I was on the machine about 2 weeks ago,
yep.
well,
Is this a story?
This is probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay. Is this a true story?
Well, it's just a story.
Okay.
This is how the podcast kind of began.
Okay.
Because we were both chatting about, you know, craftsmanship in the industry. And part of that is, I think, being educated on coffee. And I think, you know, not a lot of people, like we were saying, understand kind of like even the basic things about coffee. And I think people assume that the chains do it the correct way or a certain way, which is kind of like...
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
That's the way it should be done. And I think we kind of had the same opinion on, like, you know, we kind of want to show how it should be done. And I think that's why we wanted to do this podcast, to kind of educate that and educate just how important coffee is, how like expansive the world of coffee is as well, because there is so much that goes on, whether that's the processes, like you said, or, you know, I mean, think for me, it's like, because our job is to kind of showcase the plant essentially, like that being the process it's all gone through from start to finish.
Strip it back,
we deserve, or we need to give kind of almost a voice to the people who have started off that kind of growth, because there are so many people in the world, and us in the West, we can't even quantify the amount of people that there is that really do rely on coffee as a crop. You know, in Papua New Guinea, it's like 90 or 99% of the population rely on coffee as their main source of income, which is insane. And you think of global warming, that might change that, for example, or the wars that go on. There's a lot of tribal wars that go on in Papua New Guinea, in the highlands, which is the region where the coffee comes from, and that's changing it. And a lot of that is down to money.
We'll talk. There's different parts of coffee. There's the science behind it. There's the psychological effect it has on you. There's the economy that it's involved with. There's the sustainability and how that's changing. Global warming is actually affecting the way we grow coffee. The coffee game, from the farmers, which could be one man in Kenya.
A lot of people don't even know that. A lot of people don't know that when people see it on a bag that's been roasted and it says smallholder farm.
Smallholder farms.
You know, that can be one man in his back garden.
It's one guy, his dog, and there's some plants in his garden.
And he's got to drive 100 miles to the nearest like washing station.
Yeah, granted, he's got a big garden. But still one man, and he grows this shit. And coffee is not intentionally grown to produce caffeine to make us happy. It's not. The coffee plant produces caffeine to repel insects, apparently. So it grows. The higher it grows, the less caffeine it might produce, because there's less insects at higher altitude, and the lower it's grown. So when you look at altitude and when you look at a bag of coffee, and whether it would probably have to be like a specialty coffee that would label it like that. So we'll give you the varietal, the altitude it was grown at, the process it went through to be washed, cleaned, and dried.
Which is a whole different... That's a whole different episode, really.
Those steps are incredible. And to get into that, the history, the science, and the economy that it affects, we'll do episodes on that, and we'll kind of topicalize about that. But the podcast as a whole is to talk about the hospitality industry, coffee being the center of it, in what we are going to talk about. But it doesn't matter whether you're clearing tables or spinning milk. The independent coffee scene is going to it's going to change.
It will evolve.
It's changing too quickly, and I think it might become squashed a little bit. So it's a good time to get everyone in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why we like it, what we think it does, where it's going, where it's come from. And get a big conversation going.
Because we're not trying to shit on the chains. I think the chains provide...
No one wants to shit on the chains. I love the chains.
You know, we just kind of want to showcase what independents are about, and
Yeah.
kind of even
Yeah.
if you don't necessarily, you might listen to this podcast and be like, well, there's not really any good independents
Yeah.
near me, and that's why I go
You
to
said,
a
what did
chain.
you say? You wanted to voice the little man.
You got to, yeah.
You've got to voice the little
Yeah.
man. The little man is the barista who's overworked,
Underpaid.
You know, it's tough.
Pay
man.
rise, please.
Hospo's tough. We're going on strike. We're striking.
Yeah.
Can you strike, you're a barista? Can we strike?
No.
Can we not?
You can't. No, you can't. This
Should we
is the
try
thing.
it?
This is the problem with this country, right?
How about every independent coffee, every barista we know, we strike for a day, see what happens.
Yeah. People would be, but they wouldn't know what to do.
They wouldn't know what
They
to do.
would freak out.
We'd have to buy stocks and shares in Starbucks before this happened. But yeah.
Short squeeze it.
So, yeah, if you're out there, if you're in Hospo, if you're listening,
Hello.
how you going? Get involved, because we're going to get guests on. We're going to do Q&As. We're going to talk to you.
You. Yes, you. The one that's watching me. You.
Yeah, you. And yes, we're going to share our opinions. I'd say everything is controversial nowadays. There's nothing
feels
that's not controversial. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I like that. But at the same time, we're very open-minded. We're not like, against you and for that. We just appreciate and enjoy talking about the coffee industry because it's fascinating.
It is crazy. And I still learn things every day about the coffee industry. And I've done this.
Yeah.
I've been involved in the coffee industry for like almost 7 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like since I was like 15, 16, which is just crazy.
Because we're busy. We're so busy. Have we got time to go to the independent coffee store down the corner, around the road, and down the alleyway?
Which is always miles away.
Incredible fat white.
Independents are always miles away.
Has anyone got time to do that anymore? No.
No.
It won't be appreciated until it's gone. And that's like everything. So support local has been a thing people have been saying for ages. It's almost like live, love, laugh. I'm so bored of it because people say it and they don't. Do you know what I mean? I mean, someone...
people would like... I just think,
I know what you're saying. Shop supporting local is tough sometimes.
It is.
You might have to go out your way. You might have to spend an extra couple quid on parking that you wouldn't usually have spent to go and support the local bakery that's bread is a little bit more expensive, but ultimately it's nicer and you make the owner feel nicer. So there's this weird kind of thing that we do to support local that doesn't necessarily fit in with the way we live because it's not easy.
But a lot of the times
we do it because
when you do support it, you feel good.
You feel good.
And I think that is the symbiotic relationship between the customer and the independent.
Yeah.
And so I've gone traveling in Japan, for example, and even though everything looks very corporate, very kind of like commercial, very, big business, every shop is an independent shop. There's very few shops, even in, the big cities, that are like these corporate places.
Yeah.
A lot of them are independents.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a big thing in it feels like everywhere else but England where supporting your local has been made so much easier. I think that's a real big thing which we need in this country is to make it more accessible for people to support their locals, whether that's a coffee shop or kind of maybe a Whole Foods or something, a local shop. It's part of the culture though. Like, you go to Europe and like their whole kind of like in Spain, they really thrive off of like going to somewhere where they get, really high quality goods for... and it's made cheap because I think
Hospo out there, dude. Let's
unreal.
Talk about that.
It's unbelievable.
In other countries, it's incredible. English, it's boring over here, isn't it? Sometimes it's boring.
There's not much flair over here.
There's nothing. It's
because the independents do rely on the chains too. I always talk about like a lot of people who start off in coffee, who kind of want to grow their knowledge. They've kind of started off in a chain. They've been a barista in a chain
and they've come to an independent.
Yeah, because that's where that chains kind of offer like that, not be a barista program, but they train you up in the basics of coffee.
Yeah.
But it's to their standards.
Yeah.
It's to their kind of methods, what they want to achieve out of an employee rather than maybe what a barista should be, which is kind of, it's just much more than making coffee. It's kind of, it's everything. It's about being super good at your workflow, being passionate about the product, being passionate about customers, about people.
Yeah.
You know, I think you got to really kind of enjoy interactions with customers to be a good barista as well. I think
Dude,
it's
so true that you said that, because people do tend to go from a chain to an independent rather than the other way round.
Yeah, unless they're forced into that because an independent is closed, or you know, which I think, say you live in a small town and there's maybe 2 independents and about 5 or 6 chains. Like a lot of times the chains are going to take all the kind of the profits, and the independents aren't really going to get much custom, and then the independents shut down, and then, you know, baristas have to move, and that's a sad part of it as well.
Yeah, and being a barista, if you are a barista or you make coffee, it's okay to move around as well, isn't it? Like, it's okay to kind of jump ship. If you work in hospital, it's kind of something you do. It's not a bad thing. And as a business, as having owned a coffee shop, I know people come and go. I've been and gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like for loads of different reasons as well.
Yeah, but just embrace that. It's cool.
Yeah.
Share the love.
Well, you've got to vary your kind of social diet, and I think that goes for your kind of the way you make coffee. You need to, you know, the best baristas are the ones that have kind of taken different aspects of making coffee or doing things from a lot of different places, as well as being self-taught. I think, you know, that's a big part of it as well. But yeah, just being open to experiences in different places. That's, you know, that's part of what being a barista is about, being a better barista.
100%. And bartenders out there as well. If you're a mixologist or a bartender or pulling pints on a weekend,
always got crazy workflow. Crazy workflow.
People. Yeah, crazy.
Crazy workflow for people that
in my at the moment, I'm all about workflow, aren't I? Like we talk about it all the time. What's
so
the best equipment, doing things to help independent coffee shops make coffee like a chain, so it's quicker, more automated, easier. I don't think we need that as such. I think other aspects of the business can be maybe more chain-like, but I think making coffee, there's nothing wrong with it. I know solo on my own, I can serve 180 cups of coffee in 5 hours on a 2-head.
Yeah.
Like, I can probably compete with 3 baristas at, I don't know. I could compete. Like, it's not, I don't need automated machinery to speed me up. I don't need an auto purge. That thumb's free for 2 secs if I want. Like, I can still go at a nice pace using the equipment that I've got, and that's what I've been focusing on the last couple of years, is getting a nice workflow that I enjoy and really having a nice setup and kind of that being cohesive with the rest of the workflow in that restaurant or coffee shop. And there's some crap. No, I can't say crap. Can I say crap?
You probably can.
There's some the coffee shops out there that have quite a weird workflow, and I kind of think,
and it just doesn't flow. Even
doesn't
when you're
flow.
watching it play out, it just doesn't flow, and then that kind of puts you off going there sometimes. You know.
Yeah, dude. It might not just be a bad coffee that puts you off an independent store, because there's so many people have like their favorite coffee shop, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite coffee shop?
I do.
We're in Exeter, so Coffee Hub, not really. But there's a lot of coffee shops.
Yeah, and there's a few really good ones there as
well.
There
are some good coffee shops in Exeter.
My favourite is
some coffee shops can have 2 good things and be missing. I think you've got to be making good coffee. You've got to be good with your time. You've got to serve with a smile. The food has got to accompany it in some sort of way, whether it's fresh or quick as well. And you've got to have the atmosphere as well. You've got to tie all those things together. And there's more. There's you know, being clean and whatever, and your opening hours and whatnot, and where you are. But if you can get all of those things right, you've got a nice little establishment. But there are some places that don't do it all. They might do incredible food and a really good cup of joe, but their service might not be super, super friendly. And that might be down to, I don't know, they might not play
lack
music.
Of training, maybe.
Like music, yeah. So there's a place for everyone.
Oh. Yeah. Whether that's the ambiance when you're there.
You feel safe. You go in and you feel like you're a part of something cool. You go in, you're like, okay, like, it's cool. I'm going to get a nice coffee here. And you kind of get a little bit of chat and you leave happier, don't you? I leave happier all the time. And I look for that so much when I'm looking for a coffee shop.
I think passion as well speaks volumes.
Energy.
I think, yeah.
I want more people to be passionate about making coffee in the coffee industry. I want people to know. We just took on someone called Leah. She wants to learn about coffee from you. You're like younger than her, so much younger. But she sees this passion in you that you love making coffee. You subscribe to it. You buy it at home. You make it at home. You know a lot about coffee, more than probably more than I knew about coffee when I was your age.
Yeah,
and I love that. That's really cool. And Leah joined Vegbox and our team because she wanted to know more about coffee, the behind the scenes, everything. It's not the bean, grind it, milk. There's so much more to what the customer sees. They see the beans, they hear a noise, done. It's in a cup. There's so much more to that.
Yeah,
incredible amounts. And we could sit here for 8-9 hours just going through the many variables, from humidity, air temperature, gas in the beans, how what the date roasted, how long's it rested for, farm process, how you
altitude.
There's so
everything.
much that you have to think about before just going and kind of making coffee or setting up a coffee shop. And we hope that by the end of some of these episodes you'll kind of go, I learned so much from listening to that. I'm going to go find an independent coffee store. I'm going to buy a coffee. I'm going to ask blah, 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 and then find that little thing where you can go and
your little pocket of happiness.
Be happy. Yeah, your little pocket
and
of
spread
happiness.
the joy, because the barista at the other end of that is kind of, like we were saying earlier, symbiotic relationship. That barista will kind of thrive off the fact that they might have learned something off you as a customer.
The only reason we get better, we don't do it because if we had no one to make coffee for, we wouldn't want to get amazing at it. I wouldn't want to put a swan on the top and do it. I get bored of that, but we do it because you enjoy it as well. So we kind of help each other out. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's kind of help the independents, help you, to help everyone, to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
We could go around in circles about it, but it's what we're about. Is it's important to us.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like our livelihoods as well.
Yeah.
So.
And we're talking shit. We always talk shit.
We do talk a lot of shit.
We talk a lot of shit, mate. But
it's the good shit.
Yeah. And we'll focus episodes on specific things and get through it like that. But for now, we're talking waffle.
Yeah.
Talking waffle.
Talking
with, mate.
Talk with,
mate. So if you like listening to waffles, subscribe. Subscribe here. Subscribe there.
Somewhere. But please subscribe.
Please subscribe. Subscribe here, and we'll entertain you. Yeah. We'll do our best to educate, entertain, talk waffle, and get you involved in the conversation.
Yeah, we want to keep that kind of dialogue open to you as well, because that's what a podcast is about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Cheers, Dan.
Should we just wrap it? I think we've got a mini podcast there somewhere.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Bow, 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 bow. Perfect timing there at the end. Waited so long for that. They see the beans, they hear a noise, done. It's in a cup. There's so much more to that.